Hello, hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm still getting everything set up. How is everybody today? Oh, hi. Oh, Lord, here we go with all this stuff. Mm. Hey, you guys. Welcome, welcome. So, just a reminder as well, managing emotions. Okay, I think that's a good topic too. Okie doke. Sorry, just making sure everything is all set up here. Where's everybody from? And if you guys are popping in, I have a poll on TikTok. I have a poll going where you can vote on what we want to talk about. And then on Facebook and YouTube, you can just put it in the comments as well. And just so everybody knows too, today I'm running a promo on all of my coaching calls as well. I'm doing $20 off of the 45-minute and the 1 hour coaching. I decided to do that because I just know like the world's just expensive right now and everything is just really expensive. So I just wanted to try to do something to be a little bit helpful on the financial side of things. So I am running that until the end of today. And you can find the booking for that on the link in my bio on all my platforms. So feel free to check that out. And message me if you have any questions about that. But mainly what I do is I help people put together I call it like your recovery plan. So essentially it's completely catered to like what you are struggling with, if that makes sense. So we come up with the kind of step by step things that you can focus on a daily day basis, and it's very personalized to that. So you can either use it for that, or if you just need some clarification and validation on your experience, anything that you really need for it. So that is currently going on as well right now. Okay, let's see. Kind of a slow afternoon. Let me see how the poll's going over here. Okay, so if you're happening on TikTok, there's a poll going about what topic do we want to discuss today. So that should be popping up as soon as you hop in. And then, like I said, on Facebook and YouTube, just comment what you want to discuss. And I have that up here. True. East Coast may still be work. Yeah, I had to go live a little bit earlier today than I usually do. Usually I go live late. But with my coaching community, West Coast. That's what I say. I thought East Coast was an hour ahead of me. um, but I was I'm doing so we do this thing in my coaching community. It's called speed coaching, and it's like where like people will pop in for like 5 minutes and I'll coach them real quick and everybody can listen and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing that at like 6 o'clock my time tonight. So I had to go live a little bit early too. But oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But I'm also going to be trying to go live a little bit more, at least bare minimum once a week. I was doing pretty good there for a while, and then my clinical rotation got really busy. And to be honest, I just got exhausted. But now that that's over, I'm going to be doing it once a week, except for the week where I will be out of town. Very excited about going on a vacation. It's much needed. Okay. All right, so again, if you're hopping in right now, it looks like managing emotions is winning. That's the top poll between all my platforms right now, which that is a very common thing. And just so you guys know, in general, if you are having a difficult time managing your emotions, emotional dysregulation is like a very common side effect of PTSD and trauma. So we all kind of go through that at some point in time. It's very normal, without a doubt. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so where's everybody from? Let's just chit chat while we're waiting to get started. I'll probably start in about 5 minutes or so. Brooklyn, New York. I've actually never been to New York. I would like to visit New York. I don't think I could ever live there. I think it'd be a little bit too intense for me. Now playing in Midwest. From London. Well, hello to the UK. That is also on my top list of areas that I would love to visit. London, I've been to Romania. It was beautiful. I had a really great experience there. That's pretty much the only place that I've been on that side of the map. Okay, let's see. All right, looks like managing emotions is still in the lead from Massachusetts. Hello to Massachusetts. Oh, someone else from the UK. I don't know where that is. You have to educate me. I'm not super familiar with everything in the UK. London was beautiful, and hello to you too. We got another vote for obsessive thinking. Oh, South Wales. Okay. So the poll should show up whenever you. Let me make sure it's still going. Yeah, it's saying still in progress. It should show up whenever you hop into it or hop into the live. But essentially, it's. Oh, sorry. There's something in my eye. My contact's been really dry today. It's either cognitive dissonance, obsessive thinking, no contact, or managing emotions. And right now, managing emotions is number one. And I kind of pick these particular topics on purpose because they all kind of play together. So no matter what we talk about, we'll probably end up talking about all of them, at least touching on them a little bit. Okay, we'll give it like 2 more minutes and then I'll officially get started with the good stuff. I've had like so much energy today until about an hour ago. And then I sat down, which was my mistake. I like sat down and I was like, ooh, I'm worn out. Ew. I don't know what is in my eye. Oh. Okay, by the way, has anybody else like just been dealing with crazy allergies over the past like day or two or so? I feel like a lot of people are. I know my kids have been. It's been like really bad. I think that's what's going on with my eye because my contacts in general just felt like really dry. Yeah, I feel like it's just something's in the air, quite literally. Yeah, I was even talking to one of my friends who lives in Canada, and she's like, "I've been dealing with allergies so bad," and I'm like we're literally like polar opposites of each other, like Canada and Texas, and I was like, "Oh my god, same over here." Zyrtec for breakfast. I'm not a huge like I'm not like not that there's anything wrong with this, but like I'm not granola in the sense where like I'm against medicine. I just personally don't like to take it unless I really, really need it. Um, so I don't even think I barely even keep medicine in the house. I just don't really use it. I have like the essentials. Like I have like Tylenol. Sometimes I have stomach medicine. Sometimes, um, usually I might have like a thing of Claritin, but most of the time I like only buy medicine if I'm like actually sick. Oh, okay. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to summarize it. Um, Hello to the Philippines. um, okay, I'm going to kind of summarize this question and then we'll go into, let's see what I think managing emotions is winning. Yeah, it looks like managing emotions is going to be the pretty clear winner. So, to kind of summarize this question, it's like, I'll put it up here. So, like they've been no contact, essentially ran out on like loans and, hold on. I'm trying to read this whole thing. Okay, so essentially, like this person like failed on like financially, they failed physically and all this stuff, and then there was like a natural disaster, like a tornado, and then all of a sudden they started calling and asking like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" So it's like they kind of screwed them over, but then they're now calling and like acting all concerned. And this is kind of a common tactic. And if you think about it, one of the things that like my narcissistic ex did a lot was he liked to play the hero. Like he liked to like for example, if my mom like needed a project done, he was like the first one to volunteer to help her and would be there like all day helping her out with it. If the ceiling fan needed to be installed, he would do it. If I was sick, he actually we hear a lot about like narcissistic relationships. Like if you're sick, they're like the abuse is almost worse. Like they make you feel bad that you're sick. I never had that. Like he actually was very attentive if I was sick when my uncle passed away. He was very comforting for that. So like and any of this kind of stuff, like he did um he was pretty good about this kind of stuff. So and if you think about it, they like to sometimes this isn't for every situation because again, sometimes it's the opposite. But sometimes they do like to play the hero because it makes them look good. It makes them feel significant. And it also like and the reason why I think my ex does this kind of stuff is because when they're not completely dumb. They know eventually we're going to leave and we're eventually going to be done with their BS in maybe 5 days or maybe 15 years from now. Like they don't know, but they know that it's going to come to an end at some point. And I think my ex did that because then he would have evidence that I was the problem because it's like yeah I did everything for them and I did this and I did that and it just wasn't enough. Like it's a way to keep them um make them make them look like the victim of the whole situation. And someone just commented also keeps you hooked. It does. Like and I think in my instance it like shows that little we don't stay in these relationships because it's bad all the time. Like if it was bad all the time, we wouldn't have stayed and we wouldn't have dealt with it. They kind of do this like little sprinkles of like the good guy through or gal like throughout it, because if it was bad all the time, like I said, we wouldn't have stayed. Like there's these moments of goodness that come into the relationship. And yes, like the false hope and all of that. Um, but even after the relationship, they will still do this like points of concern because again if you go no contact and you distance yourself or you start to just be like business only kind of conversations and they can show these receipts quote unquote especially if they're doing it through text you know like look I've even shown concern when the tornado came through their town and they still cut me off and wanted nothing to do with me like see they're the problem like they create situations to make us look like the problem. Like that's ultimately at the end of the day, it's about image and it's about their ego and all of that. Um, so that was a good kick up question. So when it comes to so let's kind of talk about managing emotions because that kind of won out pretty significantly on the poll between all the platforms. So like I mentioned earlier, when it comes to emotional dysregulation, that is a very common side effect of trauma. And it's where you can kind of feel sad one minute and you can feel elated the next minute because you're not dealing with all of the drama. You can feel relief and then 5 minutes later you're angry. You might have like small things might kind of set you off. It's just this very like up and down kind of um, emotional dysregulation, and it's extremely, extremely common. There's several reasons that happen for this. Number one, if you think about it, when you're in the relationship, there's several things that go on. Number one, we've probably learned at some point in time during the relationship that having emotions isn't safe. Like if we show our emotion or we just show any kind of individuality. Hey, can y'all stop? Sorry, my animals are in the background. Like, of course, they've been quiet for 2 hours. I'm sitting down going live, and now they're raising them up. By the way, if y'all want to watch a very comical YouTube of mine, the one I posted last Sunday, I think like this past Sunday, I was like making the YouTube video, and it was a weird day for me. Like, I was very in my head about making the content or whatever. I was just having a moment. And so while I was in the middle of making the video, my dog like jumped on the couch and like interrupted the whole thing. And I was just like, you know what? I don't feel like starting over. So we're just gonna make this game. Let's see how many times my dog interrupts the video. And I just kept going. Well, then my cat ended up joining and interrupting. It's really kind of funny. So there's like this rolling count going on my YouTube video. So check that. Just if you just want entertainment, it's like a 3-minute video. It's not even super long. So go to my YouTube. It's pretty funny. And by the way, on my YouTube, I do exclusive content on there once a week where I go in depth about a lot of things. So if you're not following me on YouTube, especially with this whole like TikTok might get banned thing, make sure you're following me there. It's the same exact handle on YouTube. Anyways, got sidetracked. By the way, ADHD type symptoms are also a trauma side effect. So that's my excuse. But when it comes to the reason why this happens, like I mentioned, when you are in these relationships, having your own emotions and showing the emotions and being vulnerable and all of that, it ends up becoming an unsafe experience for us. So we tend to shield off our emotions. And even for safety reasons, we kind of dissociate from what's going on with us a lot because, again, when it's about safety. There's also two different areas in your brain that we mainly operate out of, and one's our limbic system and one's our neocortex. And our limbic system is the system that has like your amygdala in it, which is the system that essentially activates. I'm simplifying this a whole lot, but essentially that's what activates your fight or flight. It's also called your emotional brain. So when you're in these relationships, you are constantly being operated by your emotional brain, and it has your stress response and it has your fight or flight response. And all of the other things in your body that's run by like the limbic system, they essentially kind of slow down, which is like your rest and digest. And that is your limbic system is what we call like your logical or your thinking brain. So you're not, which your thinking brain is what we are designed to operate out of. We're not really designed to operate fully out of our emotional brain. It's supposed to be there for a reason. It's not supposed to be our baseline. Well, in these relationships, regardless if there's physical abuse or not, you feel you're under constant threat, and you're under constant emotional threat. So we are operating, for the most part, from a place of our emotional brain. But when you get out of these relationships, even if you're still dealing with some drama, we'll just say that, for the most part, you're not living in this constant threat anymore. You're not always walking on eggshells. You're not waiting for the next blow up. You're not trying to decide if okay, is this a lie? Is this true? You're not worried about what version of them is coming home. You're not in this constant state of anxiety. So your thinking brain, your limbic system, or I'm sorry, your neocortex is able to start operating a little bit more, and you can start thinking a little bit more logically. Your other processes start to get back to normal functioning. Well, one of the things that happens is because you are in more of a safe environment, it's like your emotions know, okay, I can deal with these now. But the problem is we have so many suppressed emotions that have happened over however long you were in this relationship that they kind of just like come up like, well, I can't think of anything that's not a gross example. It's almost like drinking water out of a fire hydrant. Like it's overwhelming, and it's completely normal and it's completely natural. But the other issue with this is that it can become very difficult to manage because people don't really teach us emotional management strategies. Like that's one of the things that I talk about a lot in my coaching calls is just how do we process these emotions? How do we also help set up healthy distractions so we don't get bombarded by the emotions or where it goes from processing to dwelling. Like that can be a really easy thing to get stuck in. And this is what I coach people on a lot because I've learned it through grad school. I learned so many things in my graduate school program that I wish I had known back in the day when I was first healing through all of this. And you just have to find ways that work for you because not every strategy works for everybody. So what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa, whatever. Um, so again, like in the coaching calls, it's like, okay, here's all these different strategies. I want you to try like these three first, see how they go. We'll meet next week, figure out how it's going, blah, blah, blah. And we just kind of work through that plan. And that's kind of what you have to do. You have to try these different strategies out and see what works and see what doesn't, and have the mindset of, okay, if the strategy doesn't work, it's not that I failed the strategy, it's that the strategy just failed me. It's not for me. Hey, can y'all please stop? Go find something else to do other than attack each other. Thank you. You're a doll. So one of the things that I would do, and this is pretty effective in general, most people that I talk to or I've coached say that this is effective. But you want to make a date with yourself when it comes to like emotional check-ins. So I would do this every night before I go to bed, and I would just sit down, and I was kind of part of my journaling time. I always did free-handed journaling, and I would just ask myself, how am I feeling today? Like what emotions have been going through my brain today? And I would just write it out. Like there was no right or wrong thing. When it comes to journaling, there's no right or wrong thing. You don't have to have a specific plan. I think prompted journals are great. Like I'm not like there's nothing wrong with those, but don't overthink journaling. Just write what's on your mind and just give yourself that permission to feel it. And naming the emotion actually lowers the intensity of it as well. So just write it out and just write what you've been thinking or write what you've been feeling, and it helps you process it. Um, so just having that daily time where you can actually just check in with yourself, like that does a lot for you because it's almost like you know that that's coming too. So if you're having like a rough time during the day or while you're at work or something like that, it's like, okay, I have my time tonight when I'm going to sit down and process all this. So that way you're not ignoring it, but you're like, putting a pin in it, and we'll get back to it later this evening. That's what I would do because this is part of my story. My ex was very infiltrated in like every area of my life. So he used to come to my work almost daily. So I literally had triggers everywhere. Like I was in the house that we lived in, and then I go to work and I walk by certain areas of my job, and I remember, and I had memories of when he was there. So like literally he was infiltrated everywhere. So it was rough for me. There really wasn't a quote unquote safe place that I could go that didn't trigger me in some way, form, or fashion. So I really had to just unapologetically process things when I needed to. And that was very frustrating because it would come up all the time. So, I mean, I would actually take my journal to work with me because sometimes it would just get so bad even there. But that's one of the best ways that I remember that worked for me, and it's worked for most of my clients too, is just check in with yourself every single day. While we're on the topic of coaching too, just so you guys know, I'm currently running a promo for my coaching calls because I know the world's just really expensive right now with everything. So I'm actually taking $20 off of my 1 hour and my 45-minute calls. So you can book as many as you want to. I have my session all the way, or my session, I have my calendar open all the way until the end of May. And it can just be like a one time where we just meet and you get some validation. Maybe I can give you some quick tips like this, whatever you need from it. But my 45-minute calls are lowered down to 55, and my 1 hour is only 65 right now. So if you're interested in booking that, please take advantage of it while it's cheaper right now. And the link to that is in my bio and all my platforms. So that's the first one. That was really effective for me. Another one that I recommend quite a bit is just getting used to naming the emotions. And I know that that sounds very, very simple, but I've even had people like set a random timer on their phone, just like a random point throughout the day, where when the timer goes off, they ask themselves, "What emotion am I feeling this exact moment?" And I've even like sent people like this huge list of emotions on a piece of paper, like it's like an emotional naming worksheet, and they just answer that question: "What emotion am I feeling right now?" Because when you can just embrace the emotion that you're feeling, as opposed to resisting it, it truly does lower the intensity of it. It's kind of like, I don't know, we're all just essentially like big grown kids, right? So if you think about it, my 4 year old, I'm not used to saying he's four. He just turned four in March. It's so weird. Um, but my 4 year old, he's by far the most stubborn of all my children. And I've got three of them, and he's more stubborn than my older two combined. Love him to pieces, but oh my god! So when I'll tell him like, hey, bud, like let's not do this. The moment that I turn around, what is he doing? The exact thing I told him not to. And it's kind of the same thing with us when it comes to our emotions and what's going through our brain. When we try to resist something or we try to push it off, it's almost like it comes back more intensely because it's like, no, I need to deal with this. I need to process this. But when you can just like name it and just accept that it's there, you actually can deal and move forward from it a lot quicker. One question I want to ask you guys, and I want y'all to comment in this. I want you to name, let's kind of practice this essentially together. What emotion do you find yourself dealing with the most? Or what emotion comes up the most often for you right now? Whether it's anger, whether it's betrayal, whether it's sadness, it's grief, or maybe it's a good one. Maybe it's I feel relieved. I'm looking forward to the future, like whatever it might be. Like just name those emotions and write it in the comments. Because what you'll probably find is that other people are dealing with the exact same emotions that you are. So over here on TikTok, we have sadness, betrayal, fear. Sadness is coming up quite a bit. Rage, anxiety. Anxiety was really common for me too. Grief. All of the above. Totally valid. What other ones are you guys feeling? I've got a couple people saying all of the above. And you know what? That's okay. Stressed. That's a good one. Stressed yet relieved. It depends on the day. Completely valid. So just by doing that though, like once a day and just naming where you're at, I promise you, it does lower the intensity of whatever you're feeling that moment. It's kind of like, it's just like almost like getting it off your chest. It's just like releasing the burden of the emotion just by naming it and just being okay that that's there. It's not really a mistake, but it's something that I see a lot in my coaching calls is people like, they feel bad for feeling some of the emotions that they feel, like especially grief or sadness. It's like, well, I shouldn't be grieving someone that was so awful to me. Or I shouldn't be sad this person was like a piece of crap human, or I shouldn't be grieving them. Don't do that. Like just simply just like don't do that. Like allow yourself to feel whatever emotion that you have, because you've, like we've talked about earlier, you've not been in a safe place to feel these emotions for a very long time. So you need to let them be okay. Just be okay with it, regardless of how good or bad the situation was. Grief is a part of a relationship being lost, regardless of how good or bad it was. This relationship played a significant role in your life, and you're gonna have just natural emotions for it. She's so distracting. It's my corgi. She's adorable though. I think I need your rumination course. If you want to check that out too, the link to that is also in my bio. It's a 7 week course actually, and it's self-paced. Like you can't speed it up, but you can slow it down. So you can take as long as you want to, and every week gives you a specific topic to talk about or to focus on. And actually, managing emotions, there's a whole week dedicated to that in my course. And again, it's called Breaking Free from Rumination. The link to that's in my bio. It's 6 weeks, self-paced. It's all online. There's videos to watch, articles. It's absolutely everything that I did that finally started to work for me, plus some more strategies that I've learned. Oh, Bree recommended it. Oh, Bree's great. I love Bree. She's such a kind soul. Um, so yeah, absolutely. Check that out. And when you go to the link that's in the bio, it takes you to a free preview so you can see all of that as well. So take some time every day, set a random alarm on your phone, ask yourself, what emotion am I feeling? Another one that is really powerful. So there's, especially since a lot of you guys wrote anxiety, I'm going to recommend this one specifically for that. So if you're dealing with anxiety, listen to this one. So there's a technique that's like very, very well researched. Like they've done a ton of research on this. And it's a technique called grounding. And grounding is something that you use with your natural five senses that actually helps you get grounded back into your body and grounded into the present moment. So you can do like a combination of this. It's like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing, or you can just do one with individual senses. So I'll walk you through some examples. So when it comes to like touch, so grab an ice cube and hold it and squeeze it in the palm of your hand, or you can put it on the back of your head, back of your neck. Could y'all tell my cat was like jumping on the table behind me, made me distracted. So find something that's like an intense but not painful stimulus when it comes to touch. When it comes to taste, bite into a lemon or something with like an intense taste to it, and just like get your sense going when it comes to taste. With smell, you can use like, well, I mean, you can do the same thing. You can use like any kind of citrus smell. You can use lavender. I've used actually peppermint essential oil, and you just like activate that smell sense. When it comes to vision, just take a visual inventory of everything that you can see in the room and just like get specific. Like I see a brown couch, I see a blue bowl, and you're just, what it's doing is it's kind of also distracting you from what you're currently doing, but it's getting you grounded in the present moment. And then the last one, we did touch, taste, sight, auditory. So take like an inventory of everything that you hear in that moment. So you can either do this individually, or like I said, you can kind of combine it and do like a step down. Okay, go. I'm breaking things now at this point. It's enough. Gosh. Y'all are worse than my children. Like worse than my children. Thank you. Does ice cream count? Yeah, I would do like something like ice cream would be great because it's like an intense, when it comes to, it's almost like two senses in one because it's really cold. But then it also usually has like a pretty strong taste too because of all the sugar. So yeah, and it's an excuse to eat ice cream. That's never a bad thing. So yes, please. But you can do like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 step down type thing. So you can take like, name 5 things that you can see right now. Name 4 sounds that you can hear right now. Or what are 3 things that I can touch right now? What are 2 things that I smell? And what's 1 thing that I taste? So you can kind of do the step down where you do an inventory using your senses. Like I said, another great one for touch. I almost forgot about this one. So my professor has done this with people with like sensory regulation issues, and she went on this walk in her neighborhood and she just collected all these like random objects on her walk. So it was like different rocks. It was like pine cone type things, just all things with like different shapes and textures and, all of that. And you can grab, she said I was joking about ice cream, a good answer. I don't need a reason to eat ice cream. I will make one for sure. But anyways, so you can like just take something and whether it's ice or not, and just like almost close, well, not almost, like close your eyes and just be moving it around in your hand and name all of the characteristics of it. So is it rough or is it smooth? Is it cold? Is it rigid? Is it soft? Is it hard? And just start naming the characteristics of it. So you can go on a walk and just grab some random objects and have like, a little grounding bucket that's ready for you. So that's another good one with touch. But this, like I said, this has been extremely well researched, especially for anxiety, for stress, for just sensory regulation. But in a way, all of this ties together because then anxiety is an emotion, like it just is. And then it's one of the most common things that we as survivors deal with after these relationships. And again, a lot of it just has to do with like we weren't in a safe place for a long time. And our body's also kind of used to being in this state of anxiety. So it doesn't take much for us to just like head straight into that because it just, It's what we're used to. And by the time that we realize we're safe, we've already had this huge anxiety response. So this also, by the way, kind of goes along into like managing triggers too. So, little side note with that. Um, the other one that's really good, and I like this one because you can do it anywhere. Like it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're driving in the car, you can do this when you're home, you can do it at work, you can do it out in public, and it's something called diaphragmatic breathing. And it's a breathing technique. If you've ever been in theater or you've ever done like vocal lessons or anything like that, you've probably heard of it. It was something that I was taught back in middle school in choir. But it's a technique where most of the time when we breathe, we do what's called shallow breathing, where it's like in our chest. So where it's like our chest is the only thing that moves. Diaphragmatic breathing, if you think about it like diaphragm, which is like at the top of your stomach essentially, it is where the air is actually being filled into like your stomach. So when you're breathing, your stomach is what moves instead of your chest. So like vocal coaches and stuff. Hold on, let me silence that. I'm sorry. So it's like a technique where as you breathe in, your belly expands instead of the chest. And it gives you like this more like deeper breath like into your body essentially. But this is also extremely well researched for it's for emotional management really, but also stress and anxiety for sure. So what you do is you put your hand on your stomach, and as you breathe in, your stomach should expand. When you're trying to learn the body mechanics of it, I recommend laying down on your back because that's the easiest way to do it. I think sitting is the hardest. So try it laying down first when you're learning just the technique of it. But what you want to do is you want to inhale for four breaths, hold it for 2. I'm sorry, my words aren't working. You want to inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 2, and then exhale for 4 seconds. And you just do that for a couple of minutes. If you find that you were like running out of air during the exhale, then you're not inhaling enough. Or if you are like gasping for air when you go back to inhale, then you're exhaling too much. So you can just kind of adjust to it that way. But again, this has been very well researched. And what it does is it just calms the nervous system down. It kind of helps you transition from an emotional brain to thinking brain. And you can do this literally anywhere. It's also the technique that they use a lot in meditation. Speaking of that, meditation, I used to think it was so hokey. Like I was like, never doing it. It sounds stupid. I might as well just take a nap. Like I hated the whole concept of meditation. But then I went to freaking grad school, and they make you do all this research and like all this stuff or just whatever. And meditation has so much resources and research supporting it and how it works and just lowering your stress levels and like all this stuff. And I was like, Dad, gummit, might as well try it. Try that out too. Just 20 minutes a day. There's a ton of YouTubes that are like guided meditations. That's what I use. I just do basic ones and I just find them on YouTube. They're like, you can very easily find them. Just type in guided meditations, you'll find them. But that's the same breathing technique that they use in that a lot. So those are 4 of my top ones. So check in with yourself daily, do a naming exercise randomly throughout the day, do your grounding techniques and diaphragmatic breathing. So those are the ones that work for the majority of people. Again, everybody is unique. Try them out, but try them for like a couple of days. You don't want to try it like once and then write it off like, oh, that didn't work. You're going to try it a couple of times. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Then just try a different strategy, try a different technique. Again, if something doesn't work for you, it's not that you failed the strategy, it's that the strategy fails you. And again, this is the kind of stuff that I do a lot on my coaching calls. And so I just want to make sure, because this is the last day for it, I'm doing $20 off of my 1 hour and 45-minute calls. They're great if you just want to get some validation, some quick ideas. Hop on and just tell me like, this is what I'm currently struggling with. We'll just tackle it like right away. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Do you hear my dog like literally yanking? She has, I know why. You have a hairball, don't you? Because you kept attacking the cat. Come here. Settle down. I literally took her to the vet because of this. And the vet was like, she has hairballs. Because she attacks my long hair. Well, hello. Long time no see. Okay. Go drink some water. Go get some water. You're all sorts of attractive right now, just hacking up along on my life. Yes, she gets hair. I've never had a dog that gets hairballs before, but leave it to her. So anyways, yes, I'm doing $20 off on those two, 45-minute and the 60-minute. And I have my schedule open all the way to the end of May. Good thing is that I am on break from my clinical rotation, so I have a lot more free time. And again, I just know how expensive, like I was literally adding up how much I'm spending on groceries right now over the last couple months. Like about had a heart attack. Because it happens so gradually, you don't really notice it. And then all of a sudden it's just like, wow, I'm spending a lot more on groceries than I was 5 months ago. So I just know how it is right now. And I just wanted to do something and try and help. Anybody have any questions on like the emotional management strategies or just random questions that, in general that I can maybe help answer? I have about 25 to 30 minutes max before I have to hop off. Oh, thank you, my dear. That was sweet. Journaling helps so much. Yes, journaling was a lifesaver for me, an absolute lifesaver for me. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through comments, make sure I didn't miss any questions while I was talking. All right. So does anybody have any questions? Y'all got to talk to me because I'm not good at just like sitting here just talking out of my butt. That's why I don't like going live. Because if I'm not getting questions, I feel very awkward. I'm just like just sitting here, not interesting. The new supply and how we think they are being treated better. Ugh. So if you are worried about that, about if like the new supply, by the way, most people I think worry about it. About like, are they going to change for the next one? Are they treating the next one better? Here's the thing, all of us were the next one at one point in time. And when was the best part of most of our relationships? It was at the very beginning. And that's because they're in the height of the love bombing stage and they're trying to hook us in, like all this and all of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer this right off the bat. They are going to treat them better at the beginning because they treated you better at the beginning than they did the last one. And they treated you the best at the beginning. So temporarily, yes, from what you were used to, they are going to treat them better because that's their cycle. It's their pattern. It has nothing to do with you. It's just who they are and it's just what they do. And I know that doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it unfortunately just kind of is what it is. That's number one. Number two, it's not going to sustain. It's not sustainable. And number three, and I say this with a lot, like with understanding because I've been there, but the longer that we're worried about what's happening with them right now or who they're with or who they're doing it with, if you have the mental energy and the time to be worried about that, you have the time and the mental energy to be putting it back into your own healing. And at some point in time, you have to make that shift where it's like, you know what? I don't care. What they are doing now does not matter to me and it has no value to my life, positive or negative. So I'm going to do this instead. And you have to almost like not wait until you feel like doing the work to heal. You do it because you know it's right and the feelings will come. We're never going to really feel like doing all of this hard work. Like we just don't. But at some point in time, we do have to make that shift. And I know that that's easier said than done, but it's done through steps. It's done through stages. So you just take it one step at a time. So it's like, okay, well, today, this is what I can do. Today, I can go on a walk. Today, I can call up a friend that I haven't talked to in a while. Today, I can clean my dishes. You just do something that pours back into you instead of staying stuck in this rumination cycle of what are they doing now and who are they doing it with, etc. And again, I know that shift can be hard, but you take that shift literally one day at a time and don't wait to feel like it. Just do it. And I promise you, the good feelings will follow and you'll keep wanting to do it because you'll be like, oh, wow, it actually felt really good today to not sit here and sulk in this, so you have to take it one step at a time. That's a good question. How can you tell if your parent was narcissistic? Woo! Well, the one thing I will tell you, if you're Narcissistic tendencies, if that's just a characteristic of, like, when we're just talking about the characteristics, it really doesn't matter like what the relationship dynamic is. It's all very much the same. But when it comes to like the parent relationships, this can be really tricky because there's a lot of different dynamics when it comes to narcissistic parents. You can have one where it's like the relationship is very enmeshed. This can be one of the hardest ones to spot because from the outside, it just looks like the family is like really, really tight knit, but it's so much past that. Like when you're in a enmeshed family environment, you don't have an identity outside of usually what I like to call the ringleader, whoever that might be. They're in complete control, they're very manipulative, and they just want to spend time with you, but you have no life outside of them. So it can be very confusing. That usually pops up whenever somebody comes into the circle, like a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or something like that. That's when you can really start to see the enmeshment live in action because when someone comes in and interrupts that dynamic, or God forbid, goes head to head with the ringleader and says no, that's when you can start to see it because they're going to fight for that control and the manipulation is probably going to get worse. So that's one dynamic. There's another dynamic of, where they essentially live through the child. There can be a lot of narcissistic tendencies with that. And then it's just kind of, I don't like to say the classic, but the more obvious ones, about just blatant abuse, where it's nothing was ever good enough, or, maybe there was some physical stuff that was going on, or, they're, again, it's where it's not a safe place for you to share or express emotions, or anytime you do, you're called oversensitive or like whatever it might be. So it's just, there's a lot of different dynamics. There's lots of people that you can follow. Catherine Kleiss, she talks about narcissistic parents a lot, because especially when it comes to parent or dads, because her father was narcissistic. You can follow, oh, she just changed her handle. It was Abuse is Abuse, but she just changed her handle, and I don't remember the new one. Her name is Bree. Maybe try searching Abuse is Abuse, and she might still pop up. But she talks about it a lot. And then How to Love a Battered Woman and La Disco Mama. All of those talk about narcissistic parents quite a bit. So those are great people to check out with content on that. This is the longest I've gone without going back. I feel pretty panicked. Any suggestions? So, first of all, congratulations for it being the longest that you've gone without going back. And hello over on YouTube. Well, let me ask you, I'm going to ask you a follow up question. Like, what do you feel panicked about? Comment that for me if you're still on here, and so that way I can answer it correctly. But let me go to this next one while I'm waiting for that. I hate when it does this. Like 20 comments will pop in at one time. Why do they stay in contact with you? I can talk about this one. So I was not aware of how narcissistic people operated. I had no knowledge about this. So when I left my narcissistic ex, I fell for this hook, line, and sinker, like hardcore. And he was very adamant about staying friends with me after we broke up because, I'm the best friend that he's ever had. And, blah, blah, blah. I fell for it so bad, y'all. So there's so many reasons. I'll talk about my experience, but one of the things that I know he was staying in contact with me for was, number one, he was, and essentially, no, thank you. Essentially he was competing with me. So it was always like this one, it was very high school. Like it was like very one-upping. Like, okay, if I posted a picture, then he would post one. Yeah, it was like very obvious, you know what I mean? Like I eventually started to test this, like on Snapchat specifically. Like if he would go like 2 days without putting something on a Snapchat story, then I would post something on my Snapchat story. And all of a sudden, boop, 5 minutes later, he's posted something. Like it's just very, very high school, where everything's competition, trying to one up. There's also the whole, I want to prove that I'm doing just fine without you. And I want you to watch it. I want you to see it. My ex was very kind of covert about this in a way. Like he would present it in a way where he was like being very sensitive about it, but he was like, I just really need someone to talk to about this because you're one of the only people that truly understands me, but I'm having issues with the guy that I'm talking to right now. And it's like, and again, back then I was like, well, you didn't really have anybody else to talk to. Looking back on it now, I'm like, wow, that was just so manipulative and gross. A lot of it has to do with keeping tabs on you. And I think it's just about kind of having this like emotional supply for them. It's still ultimately about power and control. Everything that they do is about power and control at the end of the day. But I think there's also kind of like this shred of in their mind, there's always this like ownership mentality over us. Like they always have this like, and I hate saying it because it sounds really awful, but that's really how they kind of look at us. It's like they own us in their mind. And so just because we may not be together anymore doesn't mean that that ownership ends. And so it is about power and control. They like to have the power to create a response and a reaction and to know that they can control you enough to where you're still in contact with them. And it's the for me, it was the definition of a trauma bond because I didn't even necessarily want him in my life, but I couldn't imagine him not being in my life. And so I still tried this whole let's stay friends thing. And it came back and bit me in the butt quite a bit. So, and that I'm going to repeat what my therapist told me. It's not always black and white with narcissistic people. Like we can't always say, oh, they do it because of this every time. It's just we see certain things more often than others. My ex wasn't always lined up with most, well, I should say, like there were certain things that my ex didn't align with, like how most narcissistic people do. But that's kind of neither here nor there. But there's a lot of potential reasons for that for sure. What do you do about, hold on. My friend is clearly in a narcissistic relationship like I was. I see all the signs. Do I warn her or just be there for her when it's over? I did advise her to watch out for red flags. This is such a great question. So, what do you do if you feel like one of your friends or family members is potentially in a narcissistic relationship? I think you answered it. You said, do I warn her or just be there for her when it's over? I want you to ask yourself a question, everybody, if you're dealing with this. If somebody tried to come and warn you in the relationship or tried to tell you that this person wasn't good and blah, 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 would you have responded well? I can't answer for everybody, but I know for me, I would not have because I was so busy defending this relationship because I had people tell me, like, I don't know if this is the right one. I don't know if he's good for you. I don't know if this is the right situation. And it would just irritate me. And here's the deal. The reason why it irritates people is because they know. Like, it irritated me because it put me on the defense because I knew it was true, but I didn't want to admit that it was true. So one of the things that my family did really well was they just asked me questions. Like, they would just give me things to think about. Like my mom would ask me questions like, you just kind of need to ask yourself, like, is that only you can decide this, but is this the dynamic that you want for your family? It's just questions like that. I think just being a safe place for them to come and talk about the experience, if they do that, just let them. Don't try to fix it for them, but let them know that it's at least a safe place for them to talk about it. Like if they need to. Like I was actually talking to somebody. Um, this is kind of weird, but I got recognized. It was very weird for me. I got recognized at the grocery store one day, and someone asked me this question, and I just said, they told me they're like, they'll come over to my house and they'll stay there for a couple of days and then they go back and like this and that, whatever. It was this very back and forth that, they were leaving and they weren't. And I said, never, never stop letting them come because at some point in time, they really are going to need you and they really are going to leave. And they need to know that they can come to you because one of the biggest things that keeps people stuck in these relationships is the fear of not having anywhere to go. Like they don't know where to go. So it may be frustrating for you, but never stop letting them come. And it's the same thing. Never stop letting them share with you. Never stop being that support system because then they'll know that you're there for them. And you can, if they ask for advice, you're welcome to give it. I just wouldn't impose it on them because you don't want them to get into a defense where it's like, oh, well, you don't support this anyways, so I'm not talking to you about this anymore. You just kind of, it's a very delicate situation. Sorry, I got on a rant on that question. That was a really good one. My sister said I wouldn't have listened. I was deafened. Oh, I was absolutely deafened to all of that. I mean, because I had like two people specifically tell me they didn't think it was a good situation, and I honestly didn't talk to them again until after the relationship was done. I went back and apologized, but I couldn't listen to it because I was too busy fighting to make it work that I didn't need that. You know what I mean? Was that toxic on my part? A little bit, because I knew they were right. But I'm hyper fixated on the good memories. It's been 7 months and I go through the photos still. Hmm. Well, so if you're dealing with the good memories, so I actually, and this happened to me sometimes too. Um, so it's like some backstory. I met him. We lived 3 hours apart. We have my family has some land out like in the country, and I met him out there, like where our land is at. And I remember the first time I was driving out there after he and I had broken up, and I passed the exit that would go to his old house. And instead of triggering and making me sad, it actually triggered, and all of the good memories came back because like our best memories were out there because I was at the beginning. Um, and here's what I just ended up having to tell myself. What I told myself was, I'm grateful that I have good memories to walk away with. Like, I'm grateful I at least have those, but all of the good memories don't outweigh the abuse that I endured. None of them. Not even all of them combined. So I was grateful that they were there, but they were there for one of two reasons. It was either to hook me in or keep me distracted from what he was doing. And none of them outweighed what I actually endured. And I would usually have this list that I would make of the things that had happened to me in the relationship and my experiences so I could remind myself when I got confused of if it was good or bad. And it's like, no, actually, it was pretty bad because I dealt with all of this. Um, and that helped me a lot when it comes to dealing with the good memories because most of us do walk away with some. Because again, if it was bad all the time, we wouldn't have stayed. So you just have to remind yourself of that. And again, I just want to make sure I say it before I'm done because I'll be done in about 10 minutes. I am doing $20 off on my 45-minute and my 60-minute coaching calls right now. So if you need help like this, or if you need help putting together like a healing and recovery plan, or you just need some quick validation about your experience, or maybe you're interested in coaching but not really sure, this is the best time to do that. I have my schedule booked all the way up until May, so you don't have to do it like right now. You do it all the way through May. All of the coaching calls are done through Google Meet. And if you are interested in that, the link in my bio just goes straight to that, and click it, and it's the first link that will pop up after you click the one in my bio. Um, and it's pretty. If you have questions too, don't hesitate to send me a message, and I can answer any questions that you might have. But I'm running that today as well, and I'm only taking 10 more people on with this. So just so you guys know, I wanted to make sure I said that one more time. If I didn't, I'd probably forget. I finally deleted my last photo a couple weeks ago. I remember that feeling. Actually, so one of the things that I did too was I had all these printed photos because we were in the process of like making albums and stuff, like photo albums. And I didn't know what to do with them because it's like, I just didn't know what to do with them. We'll just leave it at that. So I actually ended up putting all the photos in an envelope and put it in like, the junk drawer. We all have a junk drawer, right? Like everybody has a junk drawer in their chicken in their kitchen or somewhere in their office. So I would just put it in that, like it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to necessarily throw them out because I was angry, but I didn't want to keep them because I just didn't know. So I just put them all in an envelope, put them in the junk drawer, and then when I was moving, like 4 months later, I found them again. And at that point, I was like, I had hit my phase of indifference and my trauma bond was broken and all that. And I looked through them again and I was just like, you know what? I don't need them. And I was able to get rid of them without it being like an angry thing. I was very at peace about it. Um, but yeah, I remember deleting all my photos too. I'm just checking. I swear, I hate it when it does this. It like literally will like submit. It's like all the comments will come in at one time. Oh, all right, guys. So I have about like 5, 10 minutes max left. So any questions you guys have left? Thoughts, concerns? Why do narcissists not care about hurting their supply? I mean, to keep it very simple, it they lack the empathy, and they lack the empathy, and they lack the ability to have accountability. Like, I mean, that's really ultimately what it boils down to. Like, It's not that they aren't capable of feeling emotions, it's they don't know how to deal with them. And so instead of dealing with them, they just shut down. So I'm I know that there are like some sociopathic kind of examples where like none of it was real and all of that, but if you think about it, I don't think that it's not that they aren't capable of love and that kind of stuff. It's just the way that they love is different than the way that you and I do. Um, and for whatever reason, for whatever's happened to them in their life, they're just not able to deal with negative emotions like guilt or grief or um, dealing with accountability or anything like that. So instead of doing that, they project and they push it out on they just deflect it. It's like, nope, not doing that. I can't do that. Um, and ultimately, that's why. Like, I know it's a very simplistic answer, but it's kind of true. What did you regain? What did you do to regain your idea of self worth after narcissistic abuse? I'm gonna be really honest. I didn't regain an idea of self worth. I had to build one, and that was kind of what this relationship revealed to me. Was just what had happened to me throughout my life that allowed me to accept this kind of behavior from someone. And one of the biggest parts was my lack of self worth. So I didn't even, my sense of self worth was purely based on outside sources. So how well I did at my job, or how well I did at performance, or how well I like words of affirmations from other people. My worth was defined from outside. I didn't have an internalized sense of self worth at all. So for me, it wasn't about regaining it, I had to build it. So the first things that one of the things that I did, and this is actually an exercise that I have in my course and I've done on my calls too a lot, um, is I asked myself, these were hard questions to ask. I don't know why, like, I'm like feeling feels because I remember this. But I asked myself, like, when I look at myself in the mirror, what do I really see? Like, what do I really truly believe about myself? Um, and it's sad to think about. Like, that's why I'm getting a little about it because I had nothing nice to say. Like, I really didn't. And it was just about not being good enough. I was always going to be second best, that I wasn't worth success, that I wasn't worth really just happiness. Like, I just had a lot of negative belief systems about myself. And I had to reveal those because I had to understand what story I had subscribed to about myself. And I know it's a very weird way of wording it, but it's true because there had just been things that had happened to me throughout my life that allowed me to look for evidence of these negative beliefs about how I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not handsome enough, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And the thing is when you look for evidence for something, you're going to find it, whether it's real or not. Like, you're going to find evidence for it. And I had continually looked for evidence um, to support these negative beliefs. And when you're so hard on yourself and your lack of self-worth is so prevalent, it's really hard to think of anything else on your own. So one of the things that I asked myself to try to rewrite my own belief system was, well, how do other people see me? And I had to base it on the positive things that other people had told me. So, whether it was that I'm kind-hearted, or that I'm a hard worker, whatever it was, just like things that, like words of affirmations that I had received from other people, because I couldn't create my own story about myself. I had to figure. I took advantage of where I was at in my journey, where it's like, okay, if my worth was defined by outside sources, then what are things that have been told to me that were impactful for me? Because if they told it to me, then that means they see it in me, even if I don't see it in myself. So I just started to tell that story. And here's the thing. I used to hate affirmations. And the reason why is because nobody really taught me how to do them. Because when it comes to affirmations, most of the time people just do part one. There's two parts to affirmations. One of them is saying them and repeating it to yourself on a daily basis. But that's all I was doing. And I just left it at that. And so the first time I tried doing this, I tried it for months and nothing felt like it changed. And so I was like, well, that's a load of crap. So I'm not doing this anymore. but I was missing the most important part of affirmations. It's not just saying them, but it's also looking for the evidence of it. The reason we have these negative belief systems about ourselves, like I mentioned, is because we searched for evidence to back up the negative beliefs. So if someone told you you weren't enough, you looked for evidence of, oh, this is why I'm not enough because this has happened. If you, one of the things is that I was always going to be like number two. So I looked for evidence of that. Well, remember when I missed valedictorian by like 0.03 on my GPA? Remember when this happened? Remember when this happened? And I validated that belief system. Well, if you're going to rewrite your belief system about yourself, you have to do the same process, but for the positive ones. So one of my positive affirmations is good things always happen to me. So if I'm driving to work and I catch four green lights in a row, I'm like, see, I caught four green lights on my commute. Good things really do happen to me. And I'm supporting this new belief system I'm trying to create. So whether that's trying to do it in the moment is the best, but also just sitting down and doing reflection work of like, okay, so what happened today that supports that good things always happen to me? And you just create the evidence for that. But that's kind of, and it's hard. Like it is freaking hard. And when you're starting it, you don't believe a dadgum word that you're saying. Like you just don't. But you have to push through that, but push through it in the sense of finding the evidence. Don't just keep saying these things to yourself and leave it at that. That's not going to do much for you. You have to find the evidence too. What about co-parenting? Ooh, that's a whole topic in itself. God, I understand it's not co-parenting; it's parallel parenting. It just is. The biggest thing that I could say about co-parenting is try to keep as much if you're in contact, make it as limited as possible. Have as much communication in writing as you can. Keep things You can keep things cordial in the sense of like you're pleasant, but you still only talk about the kids. Like it's almost kind of like a business. We talk about the kids and that's it. You can be cordial, you can be friendly, that's it. Um, my shirt says, "Just a survivor who loves yellow mug talks." It's one of my shirts from my Yellow Mug Talk shops. Yellow Mug Talk shop. Woo, I could have picked an easier name. So yeah, this is actually one of my shirts. Because I had several people ask me to start making like yellow mugs and stuff. Um, and like create a merch line. I had never thought about doing that before in my life. So I was just like, oh, so again, that's in the link in my bio also. You can also go to my Instagram and Facebook, and the shop's actually in my Facebook and Instagram. But I have like mugs, I have tank tops, I have these shirts, and they have like 10 different colors in all of them. I have like this little wine glass that's really cool. I have a water bottle. I have a phone case. Like I have a bunch of random stuff. I was like, okay, well, what would I like in here? um, but yeah, so with co-parenting, keep things as very written as possible. Be the safe place for your children. Never talk bad about their other parent in front of your kids. Um, Trust me, they'll figure it out on their own as they get older. Um, and just know, and here, one thing that I've had a client struggle with a lot when it came to co-parenting is like they're just the fun dad. Like all they do is they just do the fun things and blah blah. And what I try to, you know what, at least they're being the fun parent and not an abusive one. They may be treating you like shit, but at least at least your kids are actually getting some kind of good experience with them right now. That may not always be the case. Like they may become the completely absent parent in the next year or two. You don't know. But if they're at least being the fun one for right now, at least your kids are having good experiences and they're safe, as safe as they can be with this person. So you just kind of have to adjust your mindset on some things too, and understand it's not co-parenting; it is parallel parenting, and there's probably an element to it that's always going to be a fight. So have support and have people that you can just vent to about it. And I'm going to kind of have to leave it at that for now. I could do a whole. I really would. Okay, that just gave me ideas. I'm not going to share them yet, but that gave me ideas because we can talk about that for a very, very long time. Okay, guys. Well, I probably better hop off now, or else I'll get distracted and be late for my Coaching Tribes Live. But just a reminder, I'm doing $20 off of my 45-minute and my 60-minute coaching calls right now. So if you just want to hop in and get like a validation call, can you help me have clarity on my experience? If you want to actually like create like some kind of recovery plan, all of that. Or, even if you're just curious about trying coaching, but you're not sure, whatever it may be, I'm running this today until the end of today, and I'm only able to take 10 more people. Um, and it's only 55 for the 45-minute, and it's 65 for the 1 hour right now. I know that the world's just really tough financially right now, so I just wanted to try to do something to help out as much as I can. Um, but I have that going, and um, I was trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, again, just I always want to make sure, because of everything that's going on with TikTok, make sure if you're not yet, please follow me on Facebook, on Instagram, and YouTube. It's essentially the same handle everywhere, except Instagram has a one at the end of it. On YouTube, I actually post exclusive content on there once a week, like long form video. So it goes into more depth about some of the stuff I talk about that I can't really do on here. So outside of that, thanks for hanging out with me on a random Tuesday afternoon, and I hope that you guys have a good evening, and I will catch you guys on the next live. So y'all have a good one. Bye, y'all.